I just want to thank everybody for joining us today, and exciting day for everybody, and especially our players and coaching staff. Just really want to thank President Robbie for all his hard work and just the way he's just helped lead through this difficult time and all the question marks and challenges that we faced, and Scott Dolson's leadership as well. And just him coming into this role as AD this time is really challenging for sure, but just his constant communication has been excellent throughout this whole ordeal, and really happy for our players and coaches and just everybody in the Big Ten. I know it's been a roller coaster, and it's been, a lot of things have happened in these last few weeks, but I just feel like that we've got a great plan in place. Feel really good about it. We can talk about that here as we go through this, but just excited to be back. Had a practice this morning already, and it was already scheduled, but it still was a little different level of energy with our guys, so understandably so. But excited to be back and looking forward to answering some questions here.
All right, Zach, go ahead.
Hey, Tom, thanks for the time. I know you've kind of been consistent about the things that you wanted in this season, and without wanting to put words in your mouth, it seems like you've gotten them in terms of the way the Big Ten is going to structure all of this out. I guess just what are your thoughts on the structure of the season with the 8+1 and obviously the narrow time frame to get the season in, and then kind of where do you go from here? You talked about practicing this morning, but as you think about that structure and the way that the season's going to lay out, kind of where do you start now, I suppose?
Yeah, well, first of all, like I said, I have had, three things I laid out that I felt like were important, for us to come to. And those were just my thoughts. But I do feel like as we talked as the Big Ten coaches, ADs, and that's really who we kind of talked the most with on a consistent basis. And it was just being able to do those three things. Number one, making sure that it was, from a health and safety perspective, it was a good decision to make. And we really, there's no question. I think when you look at the medical plan that's been put in place, the thoroughness of it is impressive. There's obviously everybody has opinions about things, but at the same time, I think the daily testing piece, the rapid, antigen testing that we're now requiring, it was a game changer. It's completely changed from where we were at 5 weeks ago. We didn't have that in place, and weren't even planning to have that in place for the season at the time. And so being able to have that, it creates somewhat of a bubble per se of saying that everybody that's around this football team is going to be tested every single day. And you're going to know that you got a clean, practice, area to be in, or watching film, or anything you do with your team and the surrounding people that are around your team. And the same thing on game day, and the teams you're going to play are going to in that same boat. So that's number one. So I feel really good about that. And number two, he's talking about having a meaningful season. There's no question that there's a restriction in the number of games you can play, but having 9 games to play, is not a full season, but it's pretty close, and being able to, the structure I like, obviously we're compressed a little bit. We lost the bye week option because of starting the 24th weekend, but it is what it is. But having the 8+1 and that 9th game, we've discussed this for a long time, and Jim Harbaugh, I have to give him credit for this. He's the one that came up with that idea of that extra game. How do you decide who that 9th game is, whether it's a blind draw, random draw and it had to be somebody from the other division, obviously. And so, but he came up with this idea of having a way of having parity in that last game, and that's where it came up with, 7 plays 7, 6 plays 6, 5 and 5, 4, 4, 3, 3, 2. And then obviously the top 2 teams from each division play each other from East versus West. So I thought that was a great idea. I kind of, once he said that, I just thought it was a great way to have an equitable 9th game, or whatever game it was going to be. It was going to be the 9th game, the 11th game, or whatever game it was going to be, East versus West. And so I thought that was a great thing. So I didn't give the Big Ten championship. The national playoff is in play, all the bowl games in play. So to have all that for your guys, that's really a meaningful experience for them. And there's not going to be challenges. There's no question about having that compressed season and playing those 9 games in consecutive weeks. And then the last part was, not doing anything that was going to negatively impact 2021 season. And so I think by playing it out this way, the bowl games will be when they normally would be. Obviously, the regular season is a little bit later. And we got to work through some of the logistics of those last 3 games that are going to be played in December. Obviously weather up here is a little different than it is in the South, but other than that, I think it's a good plan. So the next part of your question was, what's next? Well, right now we're waiting to get word from the Big Ten about how our week is going to look. Right now, we're in the 12-hour mode. We hopefully want to go to the 20-hour model here soon, which is what everybody's under when you're playing your season. And so, but we got to be smart. Our guys haven't been going full bore as far as for practice. We've been doing what we've been allowed to do, but it's not the same as being out there every single day practicing. So we got to be able to ramp that up slowly. But I think by having it the weekend of the 24th of October start date, that gives us the time we need to do that. And we've been lifting and running and training, ever since, we got the word that we weren't going to be having a season on a normal schedule. So we don't know exactly what it's going to look like next week. This week is going to continue the same. Will be tomorrow. We'll lift and run tomorrow and have a little bit of time on the field. And then we'll just lift and run on Friday. And then we have to give them 2 days off. So they're off on Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll start on Monday. And we'll know more by then what that's going to look like. But it's going to be a combination of lifting, running, and practicing at this point until we get to the week of the 28th.
All right, John Blau, then Matt Weaver.
I guess one of the other things we learned today is that the Big Ten won't have any fans at any of the games. How much is that going to change the environment for you guys? I mean, how much is that thing you're going to have to adjust to? Or is it just kind of a deal with you guys? You guys would play in a sandlot if you had to at this point.
Yeah, we don't really care. There's no question you'd love to have this stadium full of people, and that's the ideal. But that's, we knew that wasn't going to happen. You weren't going to have, I think 25% was what I expected us to have. But obviously this new announcement says there's not going to be any, I don't know how it's going to look as far as with family and all that different stuff. So there'll be minimal fans for sure. So yeah, it's going to be different. I've talked to some coaches that have played already and it kind of has that Saturday scrimmage feel to it, when you go out there and there's nobody out there. And that's a different feeling. I saw Bill Belichick in the interview the other day and they asked him what it was closest to how they could describe it. He just, in his typical format, he said one word. He said practice. It was kind of humorous, but at the same time, he's right. That's probably what you can compare it to. But then they're going to pump in crowd noise, so I don't know how loud that will really be. I've heard some people say that's not that loud, but anyways, they're going to try to make it, but it's not going to be the same. I mean, so that's just part of it. Like I said, we don't care. That's kind of one piece we have no control over. So whatever they decide, that may change, throughout the course of the season. They may add more, I would think, but who knows? It may not change at all. So we can't control any of that, so we're not going to focus on that.
All right, Matt and Jim Coyle.
Hey, Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good, Matt.
I'm sure you guys have been working on, what your practice schedule would look like, depending on when you started. How different or how similar will it be, to what you would do in a normal, and I know obviously this isn't normal, but a normal fall camp, normal training camp. And I guess as far as the hitting and the physicality of it, you got to do it. But I guess how do you balance that line where you don't do too much because of obviously interacting, players hitting each other, but also being prepared for the start of the season?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's something we're still working through. Obviously the teams that have been practicing, I've been in contact with some of those guys and asking them and getting their feedback. And then obviously even just watching and seeing, knowing how teams have done it a certain way. One thing that is different that we don't have to, before there was always this huge concern about, your players having contact with each other, but that's when you weren't testing them all the time. So now we will know that when we're out there practicing that all of our guys are negative because they're not going to be allowed to practice. It's a daily test. Results will be back in 15 minutes. So it's at antigen testing. So if they have a positive test result in the morning before practice, they're not going to be out there. So that makes you feel better about that contact with your guys. Now, the other part of it, though, that you have to really, truly balance now is, how much is too much, because no matter how you, look at this or no matter what situation you're in, everybody's had a modified preparation. So it's not been full months of training like you usually have. So, just the injury piece is really what you're trying to really balance. And that is, how much hitting is too much to where, you beat yourself up and lose guys to games because of that. And then if you don't hit enough, then your kids aren't ready to play a Big Ten football game. And that's one thing we're going right into, and I don't know who our first opponent's going to be, but we know it's going to be a Big Ten opponent. So that's from the first game on, you got to be tackling Big Ten running backs, Big Ten receivers. You got to be blocking Big Ten defenders and everything. So that's going to be tough, so we got to balance that out. But I tell you, we've been really creative in trying to find ways to tackle and to block and work on getting our bodies ready for that without going against live individuals, and which would obviously be our own teammates at this point. So that's just going to be a challenge that we're going to have to all have. Everybody in America is going to have that challenge. And some guys talk about doing more walkthroughs than ever because of all this. And I can see that being the case where you're going to have to do more of that, get those mental reps and do things in the spider mode, which is a mechanism that you wear underneath your jersey that's not shoulder pads. It's just kind of it's about, inch or two thick of padding that you wear to kind of protect your collarbone and your shoulder area. But you don't go, there's really no contact when you wear those, but you can tackle bags and hit sleds and do those kind of things and have 7-on-7s and tag off periods where you're not hitting anybody. But how prepared can you get when you do those types of things? So we got to be able to do a great job. We got to be a great practice team and we got to be able to tackle extremely well without taking a bunch of guys to the ground because you're trying to keep your guys healthy and safe. So it's just going to be a challenge for sure, but we welcome it at this point. So we're just glad to be back.
All right, Jim, then Kevin Brockway.
Hey, Coach, exciting day for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
My question is kind of similar to John's, but in relation to playing specifically on the road and inside the division, winning at Ohio State or Michigan, Penn State has been particularly difficult for Indiana over the years. Does this unique situation offer Indiana a little bit more of an opportunity to get that done with no fans being in attendance in those large stadiums?
Yeah, I think there's no question it's going to be a variable because, that's a huge advantage that those teams have when they have 100,000+ fans in attendance. Just the energy that you get from that as a home team, there's no question it makes it really hard to play there. And then just the being able to execute, and the call, the communication, all those kind of things that you run into and the way that it makes it harder. It makes everything more difficult. So I think it will be a variable that will help, the teams that are playing in those environments, and per the schedule, we do have to go to Ohio State this year, so that's, to Michigan, those kind of things that are unique and different. So, I just know that, just talking to, like I said, other teams that have played in those situations, it kind of took away that strong home field advantage that you usually get from those teams that have such large stadiums and they're always and usually are full when you play against them. So I think at every level though, it's all relative to that. So everybody's kind of experiencing that right now but you just got to be mentally tough. You got to bring your own juice, to those situations and be able to play and be mentally and physically tough. And that's what everybody's going to have to do. So it's an equal playing field for everybody.
Thanks, Coach.
Kevin, then Tom Brew.
Coach, I'm curious how you broke the news to your players today and what their reaction was. And is everyone all in or have any players opted out over the last few weeks?
Well, the first part of your question there, due to social media, they already knew by the time I talked to them. Matter of fact, I got the phone call from our administration to say that it was, going to be, we're back online and it was already on my phone that we were going to. They gave me all the facts, on social media. So it's crazy how these leaks get out there. But so the players already knew, but they cheered, and they were excited. And there's definitely different juice out there today. And we've had these practices before, but you could tell pretty quickly that it is a different bounce in their steps. So they're just excited. I mean, it's just hard. It's hard to be training for something that you're not even sure what that is as far as the date. And was it going to be November? Was it going to be even as late as January, and was it even going to happen at all, And so the October piece kind of just came in to play here these last few weeks, So I just think they're relieved, and they've worked really hard. And yeah, it's been a hard several months. There's no doubt about it. It's been hard on everybody. But you know what? It is also relative. I mean, we're blessed and our kids are healthy. And yeah, we got some guys who've been battling the virus and all, but I've had friends and people that have lost family members and this has been a tough time, so we're just talking about playing football here. So yeah, it's exciting and we're excited about it. But when you kind of look at the big picture of things and we got one of our players that lost a parent, actually two parents during this whole time period. It's been he and I had a long meeting yesterday just talking about life, so, it's football and it's fun. It's exciting. We're definitely thrilled to be back, so, but it is just a game.
All right, Tom, then Rick Bozich.
Hey, Coach, I know one of the things you must feel best about with the daily testing and such is that that, one positive test just sort of remains one, hopefully, instead of, turning into 5 or 10. But can you just talk a little bit about what's going on with your kids now that school's in session and that? Are they having to be out and about on campus, or are they doing everything remotely in regards to studies? And how much are you able to limit their contact to other people?
Well, first of all, in regards to the classes, they it's I don't know if it's 50-50 percentage wise, but it's a pretty good mix. Few guys go to class a couple days a week. Very few there's nobody that has every single class that's in person. But we do have a few that have every single class that's online, so there's no question. There's a lot more, a higher number of guys that have online classes. And some of those online classes have varying ways of being, organized. Sometimes the professor's up front and basically doing a Zoom call like we're doing right here. So if I'm the professor, I'm teaching the class to you guys, okay? And they have to be on there at a certain time and they're listening just as if they were sitting in the class, okay? And then sometimes they're true online classes where you follow your syllabus and you have due dates and you do things that you may have some things you listen to, presentations that you listen to, but you're not on there all together. So that kind of varies the way an online class would look. So there's a lot of that going on. And there are just some where you go and you sit in the class and you sit, socially distanced, you got your mask on, and there's some interaction with individuals going to class. So the biggest thing though, to me is just the challenges of staying away from large group gatherings. And that's where it's got to be disciplined. And as we've been very, very straightforward about that. If they care about this team, they care about wanting to have a season, they care about wanting to be a part of a great 2020 football year, then they're going to have to make some sacrifices, and they're not going to be able to go to parties, and not going to be able to go to gatherings, not going to go be around people that they don't know, if they've been tested or not, and they got to stay 6 feet apart, and they got to just, be socially distanced and mouths covered up and wash your hands and all those kind of things. So it's that sounds great. And it's, these are young kids that can be a challenge, so, but at the same time, there's a lot at stake, there's lots been invested, there's a lot of money invested in even the testing of all this and having players tested on a daily basis. That obviously, nothing's free in this world. So they got to understand that a lot of people are doing a lot of things. There's a lot of time invested. The medical staff's invested so much to help them, have an opportunity to play this season. So they need to honor those individuals by doing what we ask them to do. And we're very strict on that and very, very upfront and straightforward with it with our guys. And so, but that's the biggest challenge. I feel like with the daily testing, we're going to know if you're around a player, you're around this facility, you're practicing with us, you're lifting with us, you're doing everything here, you're going to be 100% protected, and so, but when you leave the facility, you got to make good choices.
Rick, Fred, and then Peegs.
Yeah. Hey, Tom. How challenging was it for you and your players last weekend to watch high school football, ACC football, NFL football? Did you actually watch? And how much do you think the Big Ten reacted to seeing so much other football going on around it?
Well, first of all, it was extremely difficult. I enjoyed watching the games because I love watching football. But, man, just to be able to watch, people play, especially, local high schools, and obviously Notre Dame plays in our own state. It's just frustrating. It was probably more frustrating than I expected. It's kind of depressing, to be honest with you, watching, just knowing that we're not playing. At that point, I didn't know when we would be playing. So I was optimistic that we might be able to figure it out, but I didn't know for sure. So, then again, it was just good to watch the football. I will say that. And I'm texting our coaches and talking about this situation, that situation. It's like we usually do if we ever watch other teams play. And so, but bottom line is that you basically, control you control. And I had nothing to do with any of that. And so we just had to kind of take it on the chin. And I don't really think it had I really don't. I mean, I don't think I'm being naive about this. I mean, from the very beginning, this, I would hope that it didn't happen. Here's the reason why I say that, because the reasons we gave as a Big Ten for not playing was because of the health and safety of our players and the testing issues and the contact tracing issues and the issues that they couldn't answer on some of the hardest things that were out there. And so to me, that was the reason why we were not playing. And so to to feel pressured to play just because others are playing, to me, I hope that wasn't the case, So, and I feel like I was in all these calls and all these meetings, and I really do think the plan we have in place right now is extremely thorough. I mean, you've seen it all, and there's a lot of pieces to it. There's been a lot of thought into it. I thought the doctors did a tremendous job coming together, because they had their concerns, and then therefore their concerns became the president's concerns when they presented it the first time. So how that all came to be, I don't really know all that for sure, but I do know there were some specific things that I know I even had some concerns about. We were having challenges here with testing and contact tracing and some different issues with some of our guys. So that, to me, those have been answered with the daily testing that's going to take place now. The protocols in place are so much more detailed than they were before. So I think that, it's a very, very professional sport model. It's kind of how I looked at it. And that's kind of how I viewed it, by testing every single day and creating a clean bubble of people that you're going to be exposed to as a player and as a staff member around our team. So I do feel like that it was more about trying to get it right than it was just because everybody else was playing. And there's no question. I mean, some teams have played, if you notice, they've played, they've had postponements, they've had cancellations and different things because, not everybody's testing everybody every single day. So I think that creates a whole different element for us. And it was definitely a game changer in this process.
All right, go ahead, Fred, and then Peaks.
Coach Fred Callaghan from WLKY. What is your level of optimism about the Hoosiers' chances in terms of play this season? Especially, there are always unknowns going into a season, but you've had more starts and stops. It makes it even more unpredictable. So what do you like about your team, and what do you think its potential is?
Well, first of all, I think with all the challenges that everybody's faced and all that we've gone through, and like you said, the starts and the stops, and, I believe in what we're doing. There's no doubt everybody's kind of in the same boat. So, the team that's able to manage that the best, the mentally toughest team. We have a maturity about our team. We've got a lot of guys that played a lot of football that are playing for us this season. And so that, to me, gives us an advantage, and we've got a continuity in our staff and the schemes that we're running. I know we got a new offensive coordinator, but we didn't change our system. And so I just think those continuities, and even though you have a limited number of spring reps and even a start-stop for the fall, that we've all dealt with, I think that helps the team that has more experience and more guys back that have been playing in current systems, and even the bowl practices that we had. Those are looming even larger than ever with every passing practice that you miss, that time that we had. So those to me are, and then we got a lot of guys that I think are good football players that are back, so, but keeping them healthy, I tell you, that's going to be, we said it from the beginning, whoever can stay the healthiest this crazy season is going to be the team that's last man standing. So that's probably not going to be different right now, even though we delayed the start. We've now compressed the season, so there's not a lot of wiggle room. If there is a postponement or cancellation of a game, then you probably won't be able to play that game, just because of running out of time. So it definitely is going to create some challenges, but the team that can manage this the best, that shows the most maturity, and is able to, stay the healthiest, is going to have the best season. So we got to be that team. Yeah, that's our challenge. And I really love our football team. I love the toughness that we have. I love the way the guys have responded. They've just stayed together. They've just kept believing. Guys have not chosen to opt out. I mean, that's just not really been something that they've been thinking about. And they believe in what we're doing. And there's obviously people have individual reasons for doing that, but that hasn't been something our guys have come to me and really talked about much. And just only a couple of guys have had some discussions about some things. But at the same time, we just, all we can control is one thing right now is getting ready to play game number one, and that we play our best football week number one, and do everything we can to start the season out 1-0.
All right, Peaks, and then we'll wrap up with Zach.
Coach, I was curious about the where and the when of the testing, and reading the releases. Does the rapid testing not begin to the end of the month? And does that kind of limit what you can do until that point with contact and so forth with your players?
Well, here's what we're going to do. And this is where our university has really stepped up, and through leadership of Scott Dolson and President Robbie's support, we're going to start our rapid testing tomorrow. And so we will have daily testing beginning tomorrow. And so all of our guys will be tested daily with tests provided by the university that we will use up until the end of the month. And then once the end of the month gets here, then the Big Ten test will kick in. And so we will have, starting tomorrow, consecutive daily testing from now until the end of the season. So that was huge. And that was something that Scott Dolson and I have been working on. He's done a tremendous job working on that. I just give him so much credit for his work. And it's been a tough tough few months to become into your new job in these situations, but he's been great and communicates to me in a very, very clear and concise way and very open and honest with me about everything. So that, to answer your question, that testing will start for us tomorrow. And that gives us a ton of confidence in the fact that we can begin this preparation process the way it needs to be done and allow us to be able to keep a clean, healthy field of guys that we're going to be around every single day. And that will definitely bode well for our future.
All right, Zach, go ahead and wrap us up.
Tom, I just wanted to clarify. I think you've kind of talked about it in a couple of different ways, but you said at this point you've not had anyone opt out.
That's correct. Yeah. So, and I've had some conversations with guys, because in the beginning, guys were just kind of like, Coach, what's this going to look like? I mean, how's this? They were worried about, they knew they hadn't really gotten a great preparation like they usually do or wanted to going into their senior season. So a couple of those guys came to me, we talked it through. And at that point, I just was like, hey, let's just see how this thing plays itself out. But nobody ever came to me and said, Coach, man, I'm not doing this. And so, you never know. And I'm not saying that to criticize those that have chosen to do that. I understand everybody's got personal reasons for why they have or haven't in other places. And so, yeah, we haven't had anybody here. And so I just think our guys they're pretty locked in. They believe in what we're doing and they're excited about, being able to spend time with our strength staff, because they really hadn't had that in a consecutive way like they have here recently. And they're excited to play together. This team's wanted to play together, and now we're excited to get that chance.
And one other follow-up, this is something I think just not a lot of people have talked about because of everything, the immediacy of everything else, but do you have any sense of kind of where the bowl field stands, what that's going to look like? Is that kind of on hold? Is that something that's been communicated through the conferences at all, since I know so much of that is kind of at the conference level now?
It is, so for us right now, all I know is that by us starting on the 24th and having our season conclude on the 19th, we will be in play for all the bowl games that are out there for our conference. And who knows, there may be more opportunities just because of some of the other conferences not playing here in the fall. So, but I do know that not really sure what that's going to look like, but because of us starting here in October, we're going to be able to be opportunity to be eligible for bowl games, and that's big for our conference. So I know our players are excited about that, and looking forward to just taking this 1 week at a time.